All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Podium. I'm here with my main man, Christian VDV, ready to talk some bike racing. So, Christian, how you been, dude?
Very good. Good to see you, TJ. Good to see you all the way back from Mallorca. You're in the thick of things. So I heard you're going to, Romandy next? And you saw Catalunya.
Romandy will be my next one. I did Catalunya and then Pays de Loire. Had a little break up until now, so I've gotten to just sit back and enjoy all this classic action that's been going on just from my couch back there. It's been great. It's a great viewing from the couch. It's better than the car.
A lot better than the car, I bet. Well, we've been treated to a good opening for the Ardennes week with Amstel Gold race. I have to be honest, with 43K to go, I sent Bobby Julik, I think, and George, we're always on this text chain when we're watching these races. When Tadej was by himself at 30 seconds, I just wrote good night, and I pretty much spaced out, to be honest. I thought the race was completely over. So I was very pleasantly surprised to see the race come back together with Remco. So what a treat we had there for Amstel Gold.
Yeah, that was an incredible race. Let's like just back it up there a little bit. I mean, so it was Julian Alaphilippe that made that initial attack that actually Tadej followed, and those two were pulling together, working together pretty well. And then Alaphilippe kind of fell apart. Tadej, it didn't even look like he attacked. It looked like he just kind of lifted the pace a little bit. But it was Van Wilder back there just like setting the pace for Remco. And Skelmos was in between. He was kind of in no man's land for a little while. And Remco, he just like stayed cool, stayed coy, was like, I got a strong teammate here with me. I'll let him do all the work. Everyone else was happy to just kind of it's like, hey, he's the favorite. He's the badass. Like, let's just let him burn his teammates and then we'll wait on him to make the move. He caught Skelmos latches on, and then they end up catching Tadej Pogacar, which is something that never happens. And then it was a 3-up sprint, and we were all thinking, okay, Tadej or Remco. These are the two superstars. Skelmos, obviously not, he's an amazing rider, but nobody would have picked Skelmos. Somebody hit the jackpot big if they bet on Skelmos to win that sprint.
I agree. I mean, everything had to work out, and it did, at least for Lidl Trek and Skelmos. And you have to think of Remco when he was trying to make his move, trying to get away from that chasing group. It took him a minute to finally get that junction, to get away from those guys. But it was only a matter of time until he was by himself. And then thank God for Skelmos. Skelmos probably saw him, so thank God you came across to me because I was dying 1,000 deaths. But, great race. And then the sprint. And I have to say that Remco did an incredible sprint. I think in hindsight, a little bit too long and bring me into a little bit of a headwind. But it's so much power he's got these days in the finish. I mean, it's shown before in Brabant-Sapil when he beat Wout van Aert as well in the sprint. So I was impressed.
Just going to say that. He led out that sprint the exact same way that he won that sprint just 2 days prior. So I think he was feeling himself a little bit, thinking like, you know what? I can lead this out from the start. I'll just go from one side of the road to the other. And I'll turn up that turn of power, that turn of speed. But yeah, it worked out for him 2 days ago. Did not quite work out for him in Amstel Gold. But I got to say, Brabant-Sapil, that was Remco's first race back from the hospital bed. You and I were talking last December, or this December, about all those injuries. You probably remember all the laundry list of injuries that he had because you probably had every single one of the injuries that Remco also just had. And I was making the argument like maybe Greg Van Avermaet himself. And if you guys don't get that, you got to go back and watch some past episodes of Beyond the Podium because I brought that up a few times. But I was thinking maybe he's going to be fresher. Maybe this will help him out in the long run. It'll make him have a better build up to the Tour de France. I was not expecting him to come out and win the first race that he does after basically being on the couch for like 3 months.
No one was, TJ. And first of all, I was pleasantly surprised. I think everyone was pleasantly surprised. It's great to have all the big hitters firing on all cylinders. You don't want to see big names, Olympic champion come into the race, world champion in the time trial, and really just training his way back in. And in the new cycling, no one does that. That's. I mean, it hasn't been that long since they've been coming to the race so sharp, but let's say in the last 5 or so years, these guys come to the races, and the only reason they come to race because they think they have a possibility of winning. And that's the winning mentality of Remco. And when I read that before Brabantse-Pijl, that I'm ready to go head to head with Tadej in Amstel Gold, I said, this guy is crazy. I mean, or he's got some insane numbers in training, and there's obviously the latter. So he's ready to go. But it's not only just being fit, as you well know.
Lean too.
He looks fantastic. He looks great. He's presented himself. What he's talking to the press, he seems completely lucid in what he's saying and very confident as well. But there's one thing about being fit and ready by yourself. There's 100% different thing of being fit for racing within a peloton of 170 some riders on crazy ass roads like you see in Amstel Gold. Amstel Gold is one of the most dangerous races that you do all year long. It didn't look as bad on television. You know, usually there's parked cars on the side of the road and traffic out. I mean, it's just a dangerous road inherently. And he did crash. You know, we have to talk about that as well. If we're going to bring up shortcomings at the end in the sprint, he did have almost a 30-kilometer chase at warp speed just to get back into the peloton. So he's flying. And so massive hats off to Remco for training his booty off over the last 5 months, because I mean, obviously we all know what it's like to come back from injuries, and that was a big one. I mean, I don't think they talked about it too much for what he had to go through, but he had some serious difficulty, and to this day, I believe he still has some shoulder pain, and he's been wrapped up with a bunch of tape on the shoulder every time he races.
You know, Christian, I don't think he gets the credit for the injury that he actually sustained, because we didn't get to see it. Usually when you have this big crash, it's in a race and you see someone going into the ambulance. You see someone like flying over a guardrail or I don't even like talking about this, but like Remco's injury, it happened in December. So nobody's even thinking about cycling. They're on their ski vacations. They're booking hotels in Aspen or whatever they're doing. And so it just kind of was like this article on Cycling News that just kind of went a little bit unnoticed, but this was the dude's first race back. And these were not small injuries. These were massive injuries. And I remember us talking about this in December, like how good can Remco actually be? Because when have we ever known him to have a clean run? You know, we talk about that crash that he had in Tour de Lombardy. We talk about that crash that he had last year, the same one that Jonas was involved in Pays Basque, that hindered his lead up to the Tour. And then he had a crash just in training with the moto just this last December. Like, we've never seen this guy with the clean run of just a year and a half of nothing wrong. So, and when I see the way that he was going toe to toe with Tadej Pogacar, chasing him down, attacking him, nearly beating him in his second race. Yeah. He's going to be one to be reckoned with in July.
Yeah. I love to see it. And I think that's a great talking point. I think for cycling in general, how long have you been able to race without a massive injury or big sickness? You know, we're COVID era. We're talking about COVID, you know, how long you've been since you've been healthy. And then of course, with injuries like this that sideline you, yes, you can come back, but sometimes it's a false comeback. You come back real strong, real quick, and then you fall off because you don't have that big base that everyone else has. If you could tie a couple of years together to stay out of the hospital these days, and I'm with you, TJ. I hate talking about this, but it's true. I mean, the same thing goes for Tadej. We think we're coming up on the anniversary of him having his crash when he broke his wrist in Liège-Bastogne-Liège when he hit that big pothole. Same thing goes with him. He was a little bit off, and he didn't win the Tour de France that year. He had to come back from that. Didn't have that base of racing and training. And so it's a great point to bring up, man. And I agree with you that they wasn't given enough credit for how bad it really was, because just like anything in media, in modern media, if we don't see it, it didn't happen really, right? It was like, well, yeah, I guess he crashed, but no, it was a horrible injury. And the worst part about it was in training. You know, those are the worst kinds. You want to at least be something where you're getting paid to be doing it in a race, you know, trying to sling it. But that said, I mean, again, I'm astonished for how good he was. You know, I was just watching on the corner of my eye in Brabantse-Pijl. I love the race. I think it's one of the coolest little small semi-classics, whatever you want to call it, before the big Ardennes. But wow, it was, I mean, he put Wout van Aert through the ringer. That poor dude, you're thinking he could sprint to the end. He was completely dismantled by the time they even got to the finish line anyway. So it didn't even matter how good or bad his sprint really was. He was just going for it. And then, yeah, again, and in Amstel, I thought his sprint was really impressive. It was just a little bit too far out. And I think you're right. I think having a little bit too much confidence coming from what he just did to Wout definitely played into the hands there. And but it's a learning experience, right? Now you know. Now you won't do that again.
Kid.
You
Still
don't do that. It's crazy to say that. They're all young, though. I mean, they're all young. Skelmos is young. Tadej's still young. They're all kids. They're all kids. We're just old. Well, let's talk about.
So we say that about Remco, about he needs a clear run and a couple of years worth of racing. But we also let's look at Tadej. He just had 2 second places in a row, and that's like a second place. That's not a place that we're accustomed to seeing him finish.
Yeah.
Paris Roubaix was his first Paris Roubaix. He's up against Mathieu van der Poel. We can kind of excuse that. He also had that crash. We don't know what was going to happen. But when he had 30 seconds up on everybody, and it's 30 some odd K to go, and you're thinking, okay, he's gone.
Yeah.
You give that guy 30 seconds, you'll never see it back. But he got caught back, and he finished second place. So this is what I'm going into that Greg Van Avermaet effect, because the years that Greg Van Avermaet had his best years, he had some sort of thing that made him slow down, pull the handbrake a little bit. Like he had a crash, missed a few races, and he came back and got his best results. Sometimes that forced rest actually makes you better. And I don't know, is he looking tired to you?
He looked, well, for him, like to anyone else, you have to have an asterisk next to
I would take second place at Paris Roubaix or Amstel Gold any day. Like totally. I could never have gotten those results, but like for him, he set the bar pretty high for himself. So
yeah, no, I agree with you, TJ. And I would say that even just emotionally, he's got to be exhausted. I mean, this is a ridiculously heavy program that he's going off for. It's very ambitious. And he's been at the front every time. I mean, his ratio of podiums is ridiculous, TJ. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he's obviously the best.
You don't got to tell me that, man.
Exactly. So we've been saying this. You and I have been saying this for a long time. It's the best we've ever seen. We've never seen anything like this. But I would have to agree with you that he has to be at some level, whether it's emotional or physical, that he has to be tired at this point in time. He's got 2 big races to come. We should start talking about these big ones, but Flèche Wallonne, I think it's his race to lose. I don't see anyone coming. I mean, Thibaut Nace maybe is a great outside favorite
good name
to go against another youngster. Lidl Trek, he was jumping around.
You know what I think is going to help Tadej Pogacar and Flèche Wallonne is that it's not a race that really lends itself to going on these massive 50-kilometer solo attacks. It's always going to come down to the Mur de Huy. So if he can just like stay quiet in the bunch, I mean, I actually think about that a lot of times with Tadej. I'm like, dude, if you were just attack with 20K to go, not 40, because it's going to help you later on. And, we've never seen him get tired. If he's getting tired now, he's going to win Fleche because you can't go from that far out. There's nowhere to go. They've tried altering the course. It doesn't have that big, massive descent into the Mur de Huy that it used to. They changed it kind of midway through my career. I don't know if you raced that new parkour.
Yeah, once.
But yeah, you did. Okay. So I guess they're trying to make it open to attacks earlier on, but now it's always going to be the same race. It's always going to be a 40 to 50 man group, maybe 30 into the Mur de Huy. So all he has to do is stay quiet and do a sprint, and no one's going to beat him there. Now Liège is a different story.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to have the gas in the tank to go through Liège, or maybe we're reading too much into this. I don't know.
Well, I first of all, I think that maybe you're not giving enough credit to how strong Remco was to bring him back. Maybe we're thinking about that. There wasn't a Remco chasing him down in some of these attacks and Strade Bianche and things like that. So that's my only, just try and play devil's advocate there, that he's maybe not exhausted or anything like that. He's just, Remco is that badass. And his 2 against 1. Skelmos is doing really good. So, I mean, Remco is one of the most aerodynamic dudes on the bike, whether it's time trial bike or the road bike. And if it's a flat road right now, you're in trouble if that dude's chasing you down. He could go 55K an hour for a long time, even on his road bike. So that's a dangerous combination. Skelmos giving him a few turns here and there just to help out and give him a 10 to 15 second reprieve. That's a big deal, So, but for Liège, yes, it's a completely different animal than Flèche Wallonne. And I agree with you. I think that it's almost to the liking of the UAE and Tadej that it's not a good idea to go on the offensive. It's too fast a race. It's too short in between the climbs. The climbs aren't hard enough to really make the difference. They're not long enough to really make the difference. It's a great field as well, in both Fleche and Liège. So I agree with you. It could be like it's almost gonna be his training day out there on Wednesday in Flèche Wallonne, and just go flat out for one time and hope you got the legs. Yeah, exactly. Be his opener. But I agree with you that, looking forward to Liège-Bastogne-Liège, we're talking about really the hardest one-day race on the calendar as far as exertion. When you look at the kilojoules that are used in a race like that, we're talking 6,000 at least if you're a smaller guy, a 6 and some hour with over 10, 12,000 feet of climbing, and all come in these little sharp climbs here and there. It's going to be interesting to see if they go, and I hope they do, at La Redoute as usual, to see what Remco's been doing. And, we haven't seen a race at Liège since 21 with a group. It's always been 40 seconds, a minute, minute and a half solo victories after they just launch and say, see you later. And later, dude, La Redoute, So I don't see there being much separation though between Remco and Tadej on La Redoute. I really do. And I think that Tadej still has the upper hand as far as acceleration and that kind of wicked high-end performance on the shorter climbs where he can make the difference. But as far as staying power, Remco obviously has the gas tank right now, and maybe with fresher legs. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen here. I mean, we're going to see some new faces. Like I said, Thibaut Nice is the one underdog that I'm looking forward to for Wednesday's race. I truly think it's his race to lose there, buddy. I don't know if prove me wrong for Wednesday, but I really think that this is Tadej's race.
Yeah. If you ask my prediction, I'm going to go Tadej for Wednesday, Remco for Sunday. Thibaut Nice is a good name. But I mean, I got to also roll with my dog, Ben Healy for Sunday in Liège-Bastogne-Liège. But yeah, the reason being is I think Tadej, no one's going to beat him in a sprint on Mur de Huy. And that's all he has to do. He has to sit, wait, sprint, and he's got it. But I mean, you've raced Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and for those who don't know, it starts in Liège, it goes to Bastogne, and you're basically slowly gaining elevation. So it's a pretty slow race up until you hit La Redoute. And then you kind of flip back and you head back towards Liège. And it's all, even though you're still doing all those climbs, it's really all downhill. So those aerodynamics that Remco has is going to play massively in his favor. And if it launches on La Redoute, he's going to go 55K an hour all the way to the finish. I mean, he's going to have to ride the climbs hard, but you're not going to gain a single millimeter on him in all of that space, in all of that real estate in between those climbs. And that's how he's won it twice. And it's so fast. Like the last 40 kilometers of that race, it goes by like a blink of an eye because it's just, you're always slightly losing elevation. Other than the climbs.
Exactly.
Other than the climbs.
Apart from the Falcons Rock and Roche-Falcons, but by that point in time, he's already had such a good distance in front between him and the peloton, and those guys are blown up from doing all the chasing. And a lot of times there's no more domestiques left to chase for the leaders behind, and the leaders really have to work together. And it's one of the common themes that we see in racing these days. Like, okay, you smash the peloton and one guy's off the front, who's going to work together? No one's going to work together. There's no more domestiques left for the leaders. The leaders really have to put their ego aside and say, hey, okay, we got to work together if we're going to bring back this one or two guys.
And everyone's on a different level at that point. Some people are just like this, and they're like, I got to sit on and recover. And then the other guys get pissed off saying like, hey, I'm not going to do all the work. And
and frustration ensues.
Yeah.
So I see that happening again, TJ, on Sunday. But I do see the biggest difference is that I don't think it's going to be one rider going by themselves. I think that Remco and Tadej might be going by themselves. And of course, if those guys are to be by themselves with 10 to 20 seconds over the top of La Redoute, they're gone. No one's going to be able to bring them back. But it's going to be who's going to have that kind of kick and who can make the difference on Roche-Falcons and then coming into Liège itself. So it could be interesting, or they stalemate themselves and they look at each other and they come back, and the strong riders like Ben Healy from your team comes back into the fold. So I think it's going to be a really fun race. Fun race. Yeah. And then like you're saying, I'd love to see
another Skelmos or like Ben Healy or like one of those guys that we, haven't been talking about win, but Then again, it's also nice to see the big dogs roar a little
Yeah.
bit.
we got Mark Hershey, Van Eltveld. I mean, there's a lot of strength. Pidcock, Enric Mas,
Alaphilippe was like looking for a second there. He was looking like the Alaphilippe of old. It didn't last long, but
No.
maybe there's something there.
He's looking good until he wasn't. I mean, he's like he knows what to do, but the legs weren't following like exactly what his mind wanted to, or knows what he could do in the past. So, but you got Mark Hershey, his teammate, and Tudor. So, I mean, I think that they still have a strong team, and they just won today with Michael Storer and Tour de Alps. So that team is really starting to shift pretty hard for a young team in Tudor. But again, to your point earlier, I mean, the Flèche Wallonne, it's almost become a race where, it's such a hard race, at least it used to be. But now the peloton is so damn strong, they just completely smother all those climbs. They ride right through them for the speed and the average speed, 45K an hour with those climbs? It's insane, TJ. I mean, you have to make it longer.
You're almost having to get
harder.
your drops and tuck and get arrow for all those climbs that are like 10%.
Crazy. It's crazy. It's so crazy.
You think back when like the Schlecks were just like out of the saddle dangling and they were just riding away from everyone. Those guys are dinosaurs now.
I know, we're all old, bro. But so I'm looking for if you're going to ask me what I'm looking forward to the most, easily it's Sunday. It's one of my favorite races, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, La Doyenne. It's again one of the hardest ones out there.
How did you do that race, Christian?
I just looked it up this morning because I was like, how many times did I do it? I did it 9 times.
9 times.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I did it 4. I did it in the first half of my career. I kind of fancied like being able to do those kind of things, and then they were like, you know what, you're not a one-day rider. Just stick to the GC.
Just save it. Save it for another day, TJ.
My highest place I think was like 16th place, but I had fun. It was a great race. I definitely loved racing it, but it was more like, yeah, we don't need you here, dude.
Yeah. I eventually saw the same light as you did, or I would go and help out Ryder, or would help out Lance at times. Even George, Dan Martin, exactly. We had some good riders to go and really go for it in that race, and it's a perfect race. They've changed a lot, just like they have in Flèche Wallonne. Rochefoucauld, I only raced up that once or twice. We used to go up St. Nicolas and then rip down. So that was the old school way, that's where Frank Vandenbroek big ringed it up in 99. I saw that in person. That was insane. And I don't think that was possible. But yeah, he went up, and so St. Nicolas was the steepest climb, and that was really close to the finish line. Then you descended through downtown Liège and finished in Liège. But yeah, I love the Rochefoucauld. I think it's enticing. But the best change in the course, or the way they race now, is how much harder they race up La Redoute. Because the first time I did it, that was a big deal. That definitely changed things. We only had 20 guys over the top, but later on, it was kind of a stalemate. We'd have 75 guys going over La Redoute. It wasn't a big deal. We all thought about the race in a different way.
Yeah, no. When I was racing Liège-Bastogne-Liège, it was La Redoute. The domestiques would set a hard tempo, and that was kind of the first selection. Can you make that selection? But it was still, like you said, 60 to 70 guys. The field would basically get cut in half there. And then the real race started at Rochefoucauld. Now, the winning move is happening on La Redoute, which is so far to go that, back then, nobody would have thought about going there. You would have been stupid to go there. Now you're kind of, if you're waiting, you missed out.
Yeah, buddy. I'm looking forward. So you're calling Remco on Sunday, Tadej on Wednesday. Yeah, I'm going for the
really going out on a limb there.
I'm making it even worse. I'm just going to go Tadej. I think that he's gonna put it together for these. And I think that he has the last race on his race block, and then he gets a big rest. I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit here because I kind of agree with you, but I think that Remco is just going to get better and better with every race day that he has, and he's going to get more and more confidence. He's only raced 2 days, like you said, and then you're going to see him in person in Romandy. I mean, I think he's going to wipe the floor with everybody at Romandy, and then really set himself up for a great summer. And I'm pumped that we have another killer out there, and that he's come back, because all we want every year at the Tour de France and all the big races is all the best guys healthy and ready to go for a fair fight. And that's all we could ask for. We want Primoz up there again. We want Tadej to be, and we will, of course, want Jonas. And Jonas is a big question mark still. We don't know exactly how he's been doing, but I think he will be. And just the way these guys are training so well on the sidelines, out of sight, out of mind. But then when they come back, they are ready to rip, TJ. It's the mentality of having to have so many race days before the Tour de France. That is gone. That is long gone, my friend. I don't think you need anything. I don't think it really matters what you do these days. So you just have to be very sharp and very fit. And everyone has proven that they can go up to altitude or go to a training camp and be ready to go.
Yeah, no, amen to that. The thing that would make our lives so much better is to just have all of those guys you just mentioned within a minute of each other going into the third week of the Tour de France. So we're praying for that. And, hopefully they can give us some good bike racing along the way. But in case you guys are curious, you guys can catch Flèche Wallonne tomorrow on Peacock, as well as Liège-Bastogne-Liège on Sunday on Peacock. I know Christian and I, we're going to be watching probably more than we should. It's
I'll be calling
we're
it.
junkies when it comes. We just have that thing on
I'll be calling it with Bob
all day.
I better be watching it. I'll be calling the race with Bob. So yeah, I'll be watching TJ.
That's right. Oh, you're calling it with Bob. Oh, okay. Then I'm just gonna be sitting on the couch texting you, heckling you the entire time.
All right, I appreciate that. Well, great seeing you, my friend. Look forward to seeing it. And I don't think we're going to be too far off with some of our predictions here. And not like we exactly went out on a limb either.
I mean, I like your Thibaut Nice, and I'm sticking with Ben Healy as my underdog. So we also got our bases covered. We got our dark horses out there.
But all right, buddy. Be good. Good luck in Romandy.
Right. Thank you. Take care.
Ciao, bud. Ciao.
For all your cycling content year-round, subscribe to NBC Sports YouTube page. We got it all.